Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video we're going to Oklahoma. So, look forward to that. Broken Arrow, to be specific. Nothing to do, by the way, with that movie. You know, you remember, it was a Christian Slater, John Travolta movie? Anybody else? Anybody else remember that? Just me?
$250 million by 0900 Utah time. If you have not...
In Broken Arrow, there lived the Bever family, made up of David, April, Robert, Michael, Daniel, Christopher, Victoria, Crystal, and Autumn. Big family. Oldest son Robert, he wanted to be famous. Check out his YouTube.
I'm going to make my first skit soon. Can't show you a sneak preview or it would ruin it. It'll be like a minute long. It's going to be some good stuff. I think it's going to be hilarious. So, props for props. Non-profit organization. I don't know. I just came up with that.
And he would do just about anything to get there. But he had just one thing in mind, and he would get some help from his younger brother. Let's give it a go. So let's start with where this all went down. A place that's like right smack dab in the middle of America. What was once an agricultural economy is now home to big business. Broken Arrow is a suburb of Tulsa, family friendly, and in 2021 was named the 11th safest city in America. One house certainly wasn't in July 2015. Broken Arrow houses about 110,000 people, and 9 of those were members of the Bever family, living at the nice big 709 Magnolia Court, right at the southern end of Broken Arrow, by that big old river, Arkansas. You would want a big house because they were a big family. Once again, until 2015. The Bever family was headed by Patriarch David Bever, 52 years old, and Matriarch April Bever, 44 years young. They were married in 1987 when April was 15 years old. That's, young. David, he worked in the tech industry for HP Enterprise Services. He was a technical consultant and April a homemaker. She also homeschooled their many children. In 2015, Robert was 18, Michael 16, Crystal 13, Daniel 12, Christopher 7, Victoria 5, and Autumn 2. David and April were busy. Maybe there really just is nothing to do in Broken Arrow. The Bevers were described by friends and family as generally pretty quiet. They kept to themselves. They didn't really, hang out with try and interact with the community too much. You might even call them reclusive. But April, Mama, she was a big fan of Reddit. She would post under the username Aokimom. Judging from her comments, she was into getting her 7 kids interested in web design, wanting them to be very computer literate. And here she would describe herself in 3 words: tired, happy, blessed. I'm sure the kids would say the same, as Daddy David was reportedly abusive physically and verbally to the children. So the Bevers were, tight family. They were religious. They did everything together. And when you have a family that's quite big like that, and all of them homeschooled, the house kind of becomes, well, a bit of a prison when they were also described as being very reclusive. You can imagine you would need, breath of fresh air every now and then. And Robert's way, the oldest child, his way to get that was through YouTube.
Salute. Hey everyone, it's me, Cult Empire. In case you didn't know, you found me by accident, or you're expecting someone else. Why would you do that? Anyway, this is the first ever update, which I think is a major improvement. I tried a news report theme last time. That's not very vloggy, is it? So I'm being a little more chillinated, writing stuff, scripting.
He would post videos on his channel, Cult Empire Official. So don't get confused with any, non-official Cult Empire websites out there. Don't get caught. This one has the Robert stamp of approval. He's pretty funny. I mean, if you like cringe comedy
Props for that. Props for that. And prosper. Yeah. I think I'm on something there. New rap. New hairstyle, check it. It's called a faux hawk, where I don't have to shave the rest of my head, but I still get a mohawk. I hope that it still looks like a faux hawk. I did it before. I still have my long hair. I just shaped it to look like a faux hawk. In the next couple days, I'm going to try to get an actual faux hawk. I did this before I started filming my playthrough of Happy Wheels. Thirdly, YouTube, can you not? I uploaded my first video of the Dark Forces playthrough for Cult Empire Classic, and there was like no audio, which completely ruined it. I had commentary, it was hilarious. It was 20 minutes of my life. Confusing outro.
He would sometimes film videos with sibling Michael, and it appears they were, as the two oldest kids, the two closest. They would stay up late together, telling ghost stories, sharing their thoughts and their time. So while at home, the Bever parents, David and April, it seems like they kept quite a tight leash on their kids, homeschooling them, being kind of reclusive. They would probably argue trying to protect them from the outside, the real world. And that doesn't really tend to work out very well, because the real world has a habit of slowly kind of creeping in. The kids, they had full access to this thing called the internet. It's gonna be big. And there, Robert and Michael, they started to, having a goo about the various web pages, but they were quite interested in one thing. It grabbed them. Spree shooters, school shooters, that sort of stuff.
You can't explain that. Man.
Guess what? Columbine, James Holmes, the Aurora, shooting, all that stuff. They were mad about it. They would blow their load to all this shit. Big thumbs up on the boyos from that one. They were popping chubs to it, and it wasn't enough for them after a while. They began to fantasize about it, bit by bit. Both were fascinated by school shooters, but what if your school is your home and your mama is your teacher? They wanted to be like up there with those guys. They became their heroes. They wanted, all that about them. A lot of it was Robert, with Michael being the sidekick, his Robin. The one who looked up to his big bro, and Robert was looking at Columbine like they were rookie numbers. He wanted to go higher. Like on a spree. Randomly attacking locations, murdering people, a road trip of, being real shits. 50 plus was the goal. Watching Robert's YouTube videos, it's not surprising. Even if he didn't end up doing what he does do, I'd still be concerned. He's got a real pair of Manson lamps on him. Over the summer of 2014, Robert Tia, he worked in a call center. It was a religious call center. He'd call in for a bit of an El Pray. With the cha-ching he earned from that, he, started beefing up the arsenal and buying the usual. Things like machetes, black masks, Kevlar vests, gloves, knives, regular stuff. In fact, when 13-year-old Crystal told this to her mother, April, she was like, they're kinda acting weird as shit. Just might wanna keep on top of that. April was like, boys will be boys, And this all came to a head on July the 22nd, 2015 at about 11:30 p.m. A 911 call came into the Broken Arrow Police Department.
Broken Arrow 911. Hello?
Oh, my brother's attacking my family.
When dispatchers, they couldn't call them back and they couldn't get through to them at all, they sent out officers, to, have a go. Didn't take them a huge amount of time when they immediately saw blood on the porch and in the driveway outside the house. They knocked on the door and heard screaming inside. They busted it in and saw a young teenage girl lying in the hall, drenched in blood. They pulled her outside to the paramedics. That was Crystal, 13 years old. She had been stabbed multiple times in the arms and chest, and her throat had been slit. She was, barely alive, but she was able to tell the police that it was her two older brothers, Robert and Michael, who were responsible for all this. Police then started, a search of 709 Magnolia Court room by bloody room. It was bad. April and Daniel were found first, stabbed to death. Next was David on the ground, sane. The bathroom to the hall, the door was closed and locked, so they kicked it in. Inside was 7-year-old Christopher and 5-year-old Victoria, stabbed again, to death. Nightmare fuel. The only surviving and uninjured victim was 2-year-old Autumn, and she was still in her crib. 13-year-old Crystal would survive. 5 members of the same family brutally murdered. But where were Robert and Michael? The police couldn't find them anywhere. The back door to the house was open, so they assumed they had done a legger. The gruesome twosome were quickly found. Canines tracked their scent into the woods behind the house, and along the way they found the discarded items from the attack. The two were found basically shitting themselves in a bush, and they were arrested. The arrest photos really tell you everything you need to know about how they were acting, with Robert saying he was proud of what he had done. Robert's police interview has never been released. Michael's has.
Well, man, I'm just kind of got thrown into this, so I was hoping maybe you could kind of just go back at the beginning when all this started and kind of tell me what happened, because I need kind of the details so we know and understand what you went through and stuff.
Okay, from the very start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, about 2 months ago
Okay.
is when we first really started talking.
So when you say we, who are you talking about?
Me and my other brother is also.
Your brother?
Yeah, who's the best with me.
And what's his name?
Robert Bever.
Robert? Okay. And how old is he?
18.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. Sorry.
A couple months ago, I think back to the start of this year, we started talking about voodoo and rampage and stuff like that.
Okay.
I didn't take it seriously at first, but then he started buying body armor and stuff.
So he was buying weapons because you guys had talked about murdering.
Yeah, and he started planning again.
Okay.
And I went along with it because I didn't see the other way. I thought I wouldn't want to do it. I very quickly learned tonight that I didn't.
Okay. That you didn't want to do it?
I don't want to do it. I didn't, just because I didn't kill anyone.
Okay.
I stabbed someone.
Who did you stab?
My younger brother, Christopher.
Christopher. How old was Christopher?
9, I think.
Was Christopher still alive when you stabbed him?
Yes.
What was he saying and doing?
He was just screaming.
Screaming.
What happened was that Robert and Michael's, big day out, their big road trip was planned and it was good to go. Robert had in fact ordered guns and a shitload of ammo to arrive at their home. But that just meant they had one problem. Their dad and their parents might be, it's a bit weird. That's why they chose the night to do what they did when they did. They had a load of guns and ammo basically arriving the next day, so their family needed to be gone. That meant getting their knives, and while, the plan was their whole family would be asleep, murdering them all. They then were to cut up the bodies of each member, store them in bins in the attic, then hang out the next day getting the guns and ammo, take the family car, and off they would go in the direction of Washington State, randomly killing and murdering people along the way. That was the plan, at least.
Yeah.
Why did he want to do it?
Well, mainly 2 reasons, I think. It's, because he just, he says he hates everyone. He thinks society is pointless, and so he wanted to kill people.
Now,
And also he wanted to, beat the kill, amount of other famous people like Columbine and James Egan Holmes.
Okay. I mean, who else were you going to kill? Just whoever you ran into?
Yeah, pretty much. He said 5 at a time, like gas stations, restaurants.
Okay, and then just keep going.
Yeah.
Do you have a problem with society too, do you think?
No, I just...
Or you were just more like the number of people getting killed was kind of interesting and exciting? Okay. Do you guys not like your mom and dad? I mean, what are they, I mean, most teenagers don't like their parents, so I can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, mom was okay, but dad was a little bit,
Just a little bit too much.
yes.
That night, shortly after 11 p.m., Crystal went into Robert and Michael's room, basically to tell them, wash the dishes, get the cats out of the house, When she walked in, she found them putting on body armor with big old knives in their hands. Michael apparently then asked Robert, should we do it now? With Robert saying, yes. Michael then asked Crystal to look at something on the computer. When she walked over, Robert behind her. They expected her to die quickly, and she didn't, so they kept stabbing her. But she managed to run out of the house, and as she ran, she heard her mother screaming as she was attacked next. Crystal collapsed outside, but was dragged back inside by one of them. At one point, Christopher and Victoria locked themselves in a bathroom, and Michael was able to lure them out by pretending to be attacked by Robert. He whispered through the door, "Let me in, he's gonna kill me." Then, when the two young children opened the door to save their brother, they did the same to Daniel when he locked himself inside their dad's office and called 911.
I was like, let me in, and he let me in. He was sitting there on the phone with the police. I grabbed the phone, which is my phone, got my phone. And then I ran into the kitchen and I smashed the underground. So,
Which was your phone?
Yeah, it was my phone.
Oh, and you don't have a cell phone anymore.
David was asleep, but he woke up to the noise, and he was killed instantly. They also intended to behead the baby, but the police arrived. During the interview, Michael denied, taking part, or said, it was reluctant, and he didn't kill anybody, he was just going along with it.
You guys had all these detailed plans, you had all the cool stuff to make it happen.
Yeah.
And it kind of started falling apart, and he said, it didn't go as planned. Did you kind of just freak out a little bit,
yeah,
what's really happening?
Well, I didn't know it was going to
Yeah, you don't. But here's what's getting me is it's crazy because you guys worked together and made all these plans and, had it all figured out. And then when it happens, you're just kind of standing there not doing anything.
I think that was my plan. I didn't want to kill anyone. I couldn't do it. So I was going to let him, kill everyone.
Yeah, you stabbed somebody in the neck.
I just kind of...
Well, what I'm saying is it's not Robert's the one that should get all the credit here.
Yeah.
Because it's a big deal. You're going to be on the news. You know what I mean?
People are going to want to interview you.
I don't want to be interviewed when I'm doing this.
I don't know. I think Robert, there's going to be a lot of differences. That's what I'm concerned about. And we don't want you to come off as a liar. Because you've been real cooperative. You seem like a really good kid.
He's going to do it no matter what. He says if I don't do it with him, they'll just kill me too. Or leave me there, so do it with him.
Yeah.
The little bollocks, he was lying. He tried to make it seem like he was forced, strong-armed by Robert into doing what he did. Unlike Robert, who in his interviews was happy to be yapping away, yeah, sure, I did. Michael had trouble, taking responsibility for what they had done.
Well, I was right. The guys that are interviewing Robert kind of gave me a quick version of what he's saying that you did.
Yeah.
And you haven't told me everything, okay? So I know you're not being completely honest, and I gave you one shot already.
I'm sorry.
I know you're still kind of dealing with it. And I wasn't there, I wasn't the one doing it, but you don't have to think about it. You know what you did. So you cut her neck, you stabbed Christopher in the neck. How many times did you stab Christopher?
2 or 3, I think.
And who else did you stab?
Besides Mom.
How do you feel about what you've done now?
I didn't like it the minute it started.
How do you feel about your mother? You watched her get stabbed, you cut her throat yourself, and you watched her bleed all over the place and scream. How does that make you feel?
No, think about it.
You know, when I think about it. And Christopher, your little brother, I mean, you stabbed him in the neck. What has he ever done to you? So he's just a number.
Yes.
And how do you feel about that now?
It's pointless.
It's what?
Pointless.
Pointless.
And funnily enough, they weren't lying about any of this. On the 23rd of July, 3,000 rounds of ammunition arrived to Magnolia Court, which was now a crime scene.
A teenager accused of killing his parents and several siblings in Broken Arrow. Police tell us his younger brother helped murder 5 people.
Broken Arrow PD and OSBI investigating. We know a family of 9 lived here. The parents and 3 children are dead. Another child, a 13-year-old, is fighting to live, and the youngest family member, a 2-year-old girl, is in the custody of the state and not hurt. Police say the 2 other children, teenage boys, were the ones responsible for these killings. And the details of what took place last night are slowly starting to be painted today, a gruesome picture.
Robert and Michael were both charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and assault and battery with intent to kill. Robert was 18 when charged, so tried as an adult. That meant death penalty was on the cards. Michael was 16, but he also was tried as an adult. They both pleaded not guilty. How? In the summer of 2016, Robert attempted suicide in prison with a bedsheet and failed. He subsequently changed his plea to guilty to avoid the death penalty, which I guess he had a change of heart, and was sentenced to 5 life without paroles. Michael, he didn't do the same. His attorneys aimed for an insanity defense, and Crystal, one of the only 2 survivors, would take the stand. The fact that he lured his siblings out, the children, out of their hiding place, their safe place, so they could be stabbed to death, well, the court had absolutely zero sympathy for him. The trial would last 6 weeks and wouldn't go well for Michael, which is good for everybody else. So, he too would get 5 life without paroles, so... And in prison, they remain. They're in separate prisons, they're not allowed to be in any sort of proximity to each other. The 2 surviving Bever children were adopted by the same family, so they are together, which is good. Psychologists, psychiatrists, they try to examine both Michael and Robert to see, what flipped their switch, was there some kind of trauma, mental illness, that kind of thing, which would have, they were looking for an explanation for why they did this and why it happened. Guess what? Didn't find one. No kink in their history, their noodle, or whatever, which might point to them doing what they did. Their dad, David, he was reportedly by Crystal. Crystal would say during the trial that he could be, abusive, but it wasn't to the extent where this would be explainable. They just did it because they wanted to. So.
Sadly, something happened.
In jail, leading to trial, Michael kept a diary, a journal of sorts. It doesn't lead me to think he'd be a fine, upstanding citizen, if you can believe that. It's all, well, messed up shite. I kinda got the feeling that he drew this in Crayola and showed it to the other prisoners, thinking it would, make him look like a tough guy. Don't mess with me or you'll get the crayon pictures. Wonder how that worked out. Most recently, in 2019, Robert attacked 2 staff at the prison he's housed in, Joseph Harp Correctional Center. He approached them from behind with a sharp instrument, some probably kind of fashioned shiv. But he was taken down almost instantly.
It was hilarious.
The Bever house, it remained after what happened, the House of Horrors. It's like urban legend type stuff. It became a tourist attraction, for teenagers, and the community wanted it ripped down. That should not exist anymore. They wanted to put a park in its place, and that would eventually happen. In 2019, a reflection park was officially opened where the Bever family home once stood. The house actually burned down one night. Yeah, the police said it was probably arson, but they couldn't actually determine how it happened, you know? Wink, wink.
Confusing outro.
Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and here, come on, you know I appreciate you too. Listen, go on here, I'll see you as always real soon in the next one. Until then, please take care of yourselves, look after each other, and I love you. Mike out.